Okay, today I'm going to be working on putting some moss around this ficus bonsai. I actually just potted this up the other day and I'll leave the video of that in the description below. So this is the moss that I collected at work the other day. It's just a couple clumps that I found growing along the ground in some darker areas, some shade and some wet areas where it could grow naturally. Now you can see there's a lot of mud on the bottom and I'm going to have to go ahead and clean a lot of that off. So to get that dirt off the bottom of the moss and just get to the roots, I'm going to add it into this bowl of water and just scrape some of that mud away, cleaning any extra dirt that will end up clogging my bonsai soil. Now I won't be able to get it all, but the idea is to get as much as I can, and over the years of being on top of my bonsai soil and watering it, the rest of that dirt will just rinse into my bonsai soil. I just don't want to leave as much as there is right now because that will really clog up my soil. And I don't want any extra dirt that I don't need. So now that I've got a lot of that dirt scraped off, you can see I'm just left with a thin layer of moss, not too much extra dirt. I also am taking a spray bottle and getting some of the extra dirt off as well. It seems to work pretty well if I use the stream on the spray bottle to get any extra small bits of the soil out. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the rest of my moss and get that all cleaned up. Alright, so the rest of my moss is cleaned up. I have it just in this tray sitting waiting to go onto my bonsai. You can see there's not a lot of dirt on any of this moss and I've made a good collection of it. So now I have my tree in front of me and I'm going to start getting the soil ready to add some extra moss to it. Just flattening it a bit with the spoon, and then I can go ahead and bring in some of the moss that I've already got cleaned and prepared. So here's the first little chunk of moss. Now it has a lot of weeds, but I'll go by at the end after I place everything and pick those out. I'm just going to use the edge of my tweezers to fit it into the sides of the pot as well as tamp it down into the soil. So as you can see, I'm starting with the biggest pieces of my moss, just going around the edge of the pot that have big open soil spots. And when I'm done, I'll go in with some smaller bits of moss closer to the trunks, maybe filling in some gaps. Working my way around to the front of the tree, I want to fill in a little bit of moss around the base of the trunk on the left. So with my tweezers, just adding a small amount that will end up filling in that space a little better. Now I also found a little rock that I wanted to put in the side. I thought it would be just a neat feature to have in this little forest. So I also want to add this little rock that I found. Thought it'd be a cool feature, and I will be able to add some moss around it as well, just to make it look a little bit more blended in. So I'll go ahead and grab just a little bit of moss for the side of this rock as well, and we will be able to make it fit in just a little bit more. and that moss will end up growing up the rock as well. And once I start keeping it nice and trimmed, it will all blend together. So now that my moss is in, I like how much I have. I don't want to cover every bit of soil. It'll end up growing all throughout. I'm going to go in and do some weeding. Just with a small pair of tweezers will do it. And you can see once you take the big weed out, I'll end up getting a nice size root out of it. And just put those off to the side. You want to make sure you weed your moss. All the roots from those weeds will actually grow down into your bonsai soil and end up suffocating your bonsai's roots. So take some time and do a little bit of landscape weeding. So now that the weeding is done on my little tree, the only thing left to do is give it a good little water, and for that I'll just use my spray bottle and kind of soak down all of the moss. This will help it just sit in place a little bit better on the bonsai soil. Now moss is important for trees. It holds in humidity and it actually prevents weeds in the future. So although I had to do some weeding today, that will actually help prevent weeds that I'll have to do later on. So now that I am all done, I will give you a little bit of a view from all angles of my tree. I like the way it came out. There's a good amount of moss under the tree, and I also like that rock that I put off to the side. Just gives it a little bit of extra something. So, until next time, happy planting!